You're welcome along. Sorry, I thought we had a montage. Do we have a montage? We do. Am I throwing to it? Hang on, I'll throw to it. We'll throw to it. We'll throw to it. We'll throw to it. Hello, you're welcome along. All-Ireland title number 28 for Tipperary. A third in 10 years. We have the Irish Independent's Michael Verney here in studio for the Newsround. We'll have analysis after 8 from Shane Dowell and Dennis Walsh. We'll have Liam Sheedy, Brian Cody yesterday speaking to Mór Trasny Callig. We'll have Will speaking to Carl Barrett, Ronan Maher and James Barry at the hotel this morning. Elsewhere, Manchester United at Molyneux. We'll have Stephen Hunt with us for the football show, a special guest in studio. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Tipperary fans, sit back, enjoy, relax.
Grant me, O Lord, a hurler's skill with strength of arm and speed of limb.
Here we go, the ball is in and we're underway in 2019 in the All-Ireland final.
Unerring eye for the flying ball and courage to match whate'er befall.
Barrett's caught and Barrett's down and Richie Hogan could be in trouble here. Richie Hogan has been sent off.
May my stroke be steady and my aim be true, my actions manly and my misses few.
Niall O'Meara coming through the middle. Niall O'Meara goes for goal. Yes! It's in the back of the net. A brilliant finish by the Kilkenny McDonagh striker. Came in, got that ball and fired it home into the back of the net of the Davin stand. And Sheedy roars, Tipp roar. We're back in business here.
Diverting off his hurl to Ford. Lovely touch by McGrath. It breaks to Callanan. Eight goals in 8 successive championship matches.
This is the new man coming onto the ball, which is Billy Ryan. Oh, the shot came towards goal. Was it Walter fired it?
Yeah.
Walter Walsh has sent it in and over the bar. We're in for some second half. 2-11 Tipperary, 13 points Kilkenny.
Bubbles Dwyer heading for the Cusick stand. He lets fly. That's absolutely incredible.
Jamie Callanan sprinting onto it, gathers that ball, taking down his man, he goes by one way or the other. It's Callanan coming in, Callanan crossfield, yes! It's in the back of the net, it's fired in, and the ball is finished by the Bubbles. The Bubbles has buried it. Jamie Callanan got the ball, played a crossfield, unmapped, and there was the Bubbles, and the Bubbles buried it. It's now 3-12 to 13 points, 42 on the clock. Tipp are taking advantage here.
No matter what way the game may go, may I rest in friendship with every foe. When the final whistle for me has blown and I stand at last before God's judgment throne, may the great referee, when he calls my name, say you heard like a man, you played the game.
By Jamie Callanan, the final whistle. We are the All-Ireland champions. We have done it. 2019. It's Tipperary crowned All-Ireland champions. A fabulous display from start to finish. From the blue and gold, the crowd rejoices. People around the world rejoice. Tipperary are back on top. Liam Sheedy has led his team to the promised land. What a day.
Unbelievable feeling. This is just incredible. Just incredible. It's everything we fucking dreamed of. Everything we dreamed of.
Oh, there we are. Richie McCormick, take a bow.
Good work, Richie. So that's to stand up first. Or?
That's some of your best work there. Beautiful.
It's very kind.
Some of your very best. Tommy Welsh in there trying to make us all cry in the midst of it all. Already Tommy Welsh's pre-match soliloquy, it sounds timeless and like it's been around for about 3,000 years. It's like scripture or something.
It's beautiful. Like, if ever you wanted somebody to capture the very essence of All-Ireland Final Sundays, and I've been lucky enough to, yesterday was the first All-Ireland Final Sunday, I think, in about 5 years. I hadn't actually been in here with you or on my Tobler watching it. So I actually got to take in everything.
The build-up.
At home, the build-up via Tommy, via the lads on RT as well on TV.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I don't know, Tommy kind of usually nailed it. The two people to nail it in the past couple of years for me, I'm prejudiced and completely biased in saying it, Tommy and Dahi. Absolutely. Like Tommy did, Dahi a couple of years ago when he obviously got that clip where he's talking about Ollie Baker and Clare and all that. That was amazing. But Tommy, just for the sheer brilliance of the day, and Jim Carroll, the former Irish Times guy who's been working out in RT in the digital department there, saying pretty much everybody who wrote about it, and I imagine you're probably included in this yourself, Mick, wrote about the day itself. The All-Ireland final day seems to bring out something extra in people who write about it.
Certainly.
There's a romance in the poetry that's, goes alongside with it that people tap into.
Well, with Tommy's thing, because, look, obviously he'd prepared it. I mean, quite clearly he'd prepared it and he'd put a lot of thought into it. And when we were on air and I knew at 3 o'clock he was going to do his thing, just because there's a certain, we're kind of smiling here back in studio and it's great and everything. I didn't actually realise until I listened back to it afterwards how brilliantly crafted it was and how he touched on all these.
Every word had a meaning in it, and it meant something to probably nearly anybody that plays hurling or follows hurling all around the country.
It would have read very well, and then when he delivered it so brilliantly with Croke Park behind him, there was just a lovely little magic about it. And it helps that it's Tommy. Like when, and I said it on Twitter last night, he's a bloke with 9 All-Irelands in his back pocket, 9 All-Stars. He's more than entitled to rock up and say, right, here I am, ask me your questions. I know more than everyone, I'm a legend. Whereas I think Tommy is such a humility about him. He just feels almost blessed to have been part of the tapestry of hurling.
You 100% that.
To have played a small part in it, to be part of the fabric of the game. So he almost wants to celebrate that. He'd never walk around and be like, I've 9 All-Irelands. Like, I'm on a pedestal here. It's not how he operates, and so he was just brilliant. We'll play the full thing. If you don't know what we're talking about after 8 o'clock, it was Tommy Walsh at Croker around 3 o'clock, where he just gave everyone a welcome and set the scene, and it was just magical stuff. So, Michael Verney, it was a red card, I presume. Even you, a hurling person, will say it was a red card.
This year it was a red card. It wouldn't have been a red card a couple of years ago. As Pádraig Matter said, he actually said to Shane on his one of his videos there, Shane Stapleton, he said 3 or 4 years ago it wouldn't have been a red, probably wouldn't have been a yellow, it would have been a free out. I actually mentioned in my piece today, Lara Corbett nearly decapitated Owen Murphy from Waterford in the 08 semi-final. Much worse than what Richie did yesterday, and it was a yellow, and there was never really a thought of it being a red. It's just, and I don't get where Henry and Jackie are coming from in the sense that they're saying that common sense has prevailed. I don't really get that, but I do get they played the game. They played some of the most physical games of all time against Tipperary, and I do understand how they can't see it's a red from their playing days. But things have changed. I'd be sickened if I was sent off in a match for that as well, but things have changed in the last couple of years, particularly with the directive that came from the National Referees Committee this year. They said that they were going to send off people for head-high tackles. Tony Kelly, there was outrage when he was sent off in the first game of the league against Tipp.
Against Tipp as well.
Yeah,
and day one they made a point with Kelly of putting this into place and not overturning it either.
Now
you can't appeal this. Tony Kelly's sending off stood that first day.
But if you went back through some games, you'd definitely find ones that weren't given, and that's probably the difficult thing to take. If those challenges, I don't think there was any deliberate intent, I have to say. Richie, I don't think Richie's ever been sent off for Kilkenny.
When you say there was no deliberate attempt, which part of his body movement was not deliberate on his part?
Well, he would have been running in, and he would have been running in to shoulder Cottle Barrett and try and put him over the sideline. Cottle Barrett ducked at the last second, and Cottle Barrett ducks down his head a small bit, and Richie's elbow did lead up a small bit. It was, I would say, slightly leading.
But that was deliberate. Like, Richie is one of the most gifted hurlers I've ever seen. He can change the angle of his wrists in a fraction of a second last minute. He certainly knows what his right elbow is doing. Like, Richie's peeved because Barrett doesn't get a yellow for the initial incident where he has to go off as a blood sup. And I think there's a wide in there as well, and he's just a bit frustrated. And he sees Barrett on the sideline and he says, beautiful. Lines him up, he goes to nail him in a fair way, like shoulder him out over. Call Barrett's too quick for him, checks back in, and then pop, up goes the elbow, clocks him. All of that's deliberate. Like, people are saying wet conditions as well. Like, he didn't slip.
No, the conditions don't have anything to do with it.
So I just, there's no malice in it, is one of the lines, and it wasn't deliberate. But I actually don't genuinely know which part of his body movement wasn't deliberate. Which part of it was he not fully in control of?
I know exactly where you're coming from. From hurling against him, and knowing him, I would not think it's deliberate. But it's the last camera angle. But it's the last camera angle that looks really bad. If you're seeing that in real time, it doesn't look bad. I think it was the fourth angle that looked really, really bad.
First 2 or 3 look okay for him.
Yeah.
You don't think there's much of an elbow connection.
Ever so slightly contact, and then the last one you can kind of see something. Yeah, I wrote my piece today. I said he's slightly led with his elbow, so I would give him the benefit of the doubt. But the fair play to James Owens. I didn't want to see a red card for the spectacle of the game, and it was a ballsy move from him and he should be lauded for it, because the easy thing to do would have been hand out the yellow, and it would have made a mockery of the rules to some extent if he had.
How much of a talking point would it be today if Owens had called Hogan over, talked to him for a minute, given him a yellow and a stern shake of the head and be careful you? How much would we be talking about today if either Kilkenny had won by 2 points or Tipp had won by a few points, would it be a big issue today?
If Tipp had won, I don't think it would be much of an issue at all. If Kilkenny had won, it probably would have been, and then you'd be looking at...
How big though?
Big enough, because you would have been looking at Richie Hogan probably should have been sent off. They'd be saying Seamus Callan should have been awarded a penalty. The dodgy point that was given, which Brian Hogan insists was not over the bar as well. So then you have 3 or 4 things, and combine that with the semi-final where it was injustice after injustice, I'd say there'd be Tipp heads would be screaming today.
Yeah, so then that would suggest it definitely was a red.
Look, it was a red. It was a red. It ruins the spectacle of a game, and Brian Cody even said that today.
Yeah.
And we met him in the City West there today, and you could just see how frustrated he still was by it. That sort of thing goes against a red card for something like that, and a physical kind of manly challenge, as he would say. That goes against all his principles of what hurling is.
It was such a pity for the spectacle. When you say you met Brian Cody today, did you text him and arrange a time and a place, or did you just ambush him when he walked out of his hotel room?
No, to be fair, we didn't ambush him. We were waiting there. We were waiting there since about 10 o'clock, and we got him around 12:30. We were in contact with the Kilkenny PRO.
So it's that kind of a meeting.
Yeah, and in fairness, he
I'll leave you waiting for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael.
He'd be well entitled to. In fairness, I don't know if I'd be fit to talk after losing in Ireland. I think it was his biggest defeat, league or championship
in 20 years. Yes, correct. Yeah,
which is massive. I still think they probably wouldn't have won the game if Richie stayed in the field, but they would have been a lot more competitive. Their style of play just totally changed after the sending off, which was a bit bizarre. They should have been carrying the ball more. They should have been working the ball through the lines more. While it's a big physical exertion, they needed to do that. They just lowered the ball down. It totally played into Tipp's hands. How many balls did Barrett get on? All Ronan Matter had to do was break the ball to him as well, and it just totally played into their hands.
Why do you think they persisted with that? Because even I think there's a moment about 4 or 5 minutes into the second half, and bear in mind they've had all of half time to probably work on the assumption that Tipp will drop an extra man back. And then initially, first few minutes, second half, they drop the ball in, Barrett catches it, comes storming out. It's like a signifying moment of what you can expect. And they worked to score from it as well, Tipp. It might have been one of the goals. Why did they persist with it is the amazing thing. Did they panic? Did they feel a pressure to go for goals? Maybe physically they didn't feel they had the running game in their legs. The Limerick game takes a lot out of them. I don't know if I fully buy that. I'm genuinely struggling to actually get inside the rationale why they continue to do it for the whole second half. I don't know, did Cody offer anything up on that this morning? Did you challenge? Did you Brian?
Tactical things were not exactly the focal point of the discussion today, but
he didn't touch on their approach in the second half.
No, he didn't touch on their approach.
What's your sense?
The funny thing is that as good as they have been this year, there was 2 moments that really stuck to me. The whole second half stuck with me with the way they played, which was, I don't know, was it a sense of panic? It was that old school kind of long ball tactic, which I thought they'd gotten away from. And there was the last 5 minutes of the Leinster final where they went for goals on 4 or 5 occasions when points would have sufficed to get a draw. It's a strange one. That's not reverting to type in Leinster final, but yesterday was reverting to old school Kilkenny. Long ball, we'll win primary ball and feed away, but they weren't able to do that yesterday. Everything they'd worked on in the last 2 years, which was the short ball, breaking the lines, running off the shoulders, sharp hookouts, it all just went out the window in the second half yesterday, which was unusual. Tipp cleaned them out. It was Owen Murphy had 39 hookouts, they won 13.
Yeah.
Brian Hogan had 26, won 20.
Yeah.
13 of 39, and it was just over and over again. Paddy Deegan, you just knew when he got the ball a couple lines, he's just lording ball in. It was just a bit of a bizarre thing to see, to be honest.
In your paper today, Brendan Cummins had the stats. So after the Hogan sending off, Kilkenny took 2 short puckouts and they won both of them. And they went long or longer 23 times and won 5 of 23.
Yeah, they're all intelligent players, and it's strange that they weren't smart enough to realise at the time that this isn't working. And regardless of the diktat that's coming from the line, we need to do something different. This isn't working. We're putting ball in, and TJ went in full forward, and it was just like every ball was going to go in there then, regardless.
Who was your man of the match?
My man of the match was Ronan Matter. I thought he was outstanding, and the threat that Colin Fennelly had, even when he had a man in front of him in Cathal Barrett, Ronan Matter just totally nullified that, walked out with ball. I think when you look back at the Munster final, All-Ireland semi-final and All-Ireland final, he's been unbelievable in those 3 massive games, and there would have been question marks. He kind of fell back into the full-back spot, unknowns to himself probably, and it's funny, I chatted with Shane before earlier on this year about how Sheedy kind of fell upon the right combination in 2010, and he almost fell upon that position again this year, and it's just worked out perfectly. Yeah, he's just so good in the air, and he's been around quite a long time, and he's only 23.
That's the thing about this Tipperary side, almost when Sheedy started the league campaign, there was disappointment. I remember talking about it at the time. Where are all the new players? It's just the same old lads, you know. The average age, though, of the team is 27. 11 of the starting 15 yesterday were under 25. So with Sheedy still there next year, crucially, and an age profile like that,
and a gang of under 20s coming behind.
The under 20s off the bench, yeah. Like, they're poised to do something again next year. Now, that said, they have not done back-to-backs in 54 years. So there is a bit of a trend there. There is an issue there with Tipperary and trying to do back-to-backs.
But even seeing like how good Limerick were this year and they still weren't able to do back-to-back will show you the scale of what they have ahead. But they've got, it's going to be very similar to 2010 again. They could win the under-20 6 days later again, as they did then.
They're against Cork in 6 days.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult now because they hit 8 goals against Wexford in the semi-final.
Yeah.
But Sheedy was clever enough to realise everyone was saying Tipp had no bench, but yet people wanted the under-20s ones from last year to start. Yeah. So 5 points off the bench yesterday. Joe Brown, Willie Connors, Mark Keogh, and I forget who the fourth man was, but there's 4 lads. Jake Morris. Yeah. There's 4 lads that will probably get a load of league time next year, and probably 2 to 3 of them will start championship next year. And then you've all the under-20s as well. Conor Bowe, all these lads, Billy Seymour. You've loads of players. All of a sudden, there's an unbelievable amount of players to pick from.
Some text in, the Kilkenny apologists are a disgrace, says Pat, in what they've been saying to protect their own county man while ignoring the rule that protects the welfare of all hurlers. Ara lads, what rubbish are you talking? Hogan took him out plain and simple, call it as it is. Tyrrell Shefflin saying ridiculous yesterday, says David and Ennis. Brian and Navan on the point that Hogan took a blow beforehand. Lads, a boss of a hurl to the face is a red card, fairness please. I mean, like the Barrett thing, he was going for the ball.
I've been in that situation several times. The ball is around Richie's face, and it's not a strike; it's a flick. He's going to flick the ball. He's not pulled straight across his helmet or anything like that. He's gone to flick the ball, and he has flicked his face, which happens from time to time. That in no way is a red card for me. However, it's definitely a yellow, and there was definitely 3 or 4 really bad frees given away, as in yellow card frees before that. Kilkenny, people are going to forget and look at the score and they say TJ Reid got a load of frees in the first half. At least 3 or 4 of them they had broken the line, and they were half chances for goals before being unceremoniously dragged down.
So if you could make a criticism of Owens, it's not that he took the tough decision and sent off Hogan, it's maybe that he created or allowed an environment to settle in the 10 minutes before that which said you'll get away with a bit here, and therefore the red for Hogan seemed, they say, exceptionally tough given the context of Barrett not getting a yellow.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what you frame it on, like, and then you're looking at, like, Jason Ford picked up Tipp's only yellow card in the 54th minute for a head-high tackle on Murphy, which could have been deemed a red card as well.
Yeah.
But of all the other, like, 4 of the defenders should have been on probably yellow card before Jason Ford, and that's
the harshness of it.
That's the harshness of it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair enough point. Richie, the Newsround, we'll get to Man United team news in just a second, but obviously Tipp leading the way tonight.
Yeah, Thurles is greeting its triumphant Tipperary hurlers home this evening. Liam McCarthy is being presented to the Tipp faithful for the 28th time following yesterday's 325 to 20 point win over Kilkenny at Croke Park. Noel O'Mara scored the first of those Tipp goals yesterday, and he described the feeling of that goal to our Will O'Callaghan at the team hotel this morning.
We just needed at the time, I guess. I was half tempted to go, like we always say in training, if you can try and go past the man first. If it doesn't work, try and take a point. But I kind of just got the ball and took on Conor Forey at the time and just opened up for me. And Darren Gleeson said last week at training, if you're going to shoot low. And I did, and skidded off the ground into the net, thankfully, yeah.
And on the final note, I suppose that second half, you enjoyed the space that opened up, but I felt you used the space extremely well.
Yeah, at half time there was just a bit of talk that the ball we were hitting in was probably too straight, if that makes sense. We wanted to hit the ball wider to give the boys a chance to run onto it, and we did. And I think it was Bubbles' goal. The ball was hit down in the corner with a cross, and brilliant finish. So we kind of paid, I suppose, dividends there. So just keeping a bit of width. Eamon O'Shea would always emphasise width for forwards. So I think we really had the space second half when we exploited it. So yeah, we were delighted.
Yeah, plenty of Eamon O'Shea fingerprints all over this. That backroom team, as lengthy as it was, I mean, Seamus Callanan named about 654 people, I think, in his speech, but Sheedy, Dunn, Dara Egan, who was the substitute keeper for a number of years.
Yeah, and he was outfield player as well for a time.
Well, yeah, still only 33. It was a lovely moment where the 4 of them got in that embrace. They called over O'Shea at full time. I don't know, did you see that on the TV? Like, when you think about that, Malachy Clerkin was sort of writing about it today as well. There's a lot of humility all round there. Like, on Sheedy's part, to go back to O'Shea, several times and say, look, please, come back. That he's not saying, well, I'm the big hurling brain on this backroom team. That O'Shea came back even though he'd been the manager before. Like, it's tough going back. You've been the main man all Ireland final day. Now you're back working under someone. That you're Tommy Dunn, who maybe had a bit more control, potentially, I don't know, before O'Shea comes back, and you say, look, okay, it's for the betterment of everyone. There's a real circle of humility and working together there, which is to be commended and doesn't always happen.
Definitely, like Eamon O'Shea was an All-Ireland winning coach, obviously 2010.
Yeah.
Was manager for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then he has the Mayor Forna, or the Marishka bib on yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's someone who just wants Tipperary to win. It's regardless of my role or whether people are going to think I'm the main man or anything. But the backroom team is an interesting one. Like, that backroom team, like, you have 5 to 6 coaches there, hurling coaches, that are, they're all like assistant coaches, shall we say,
right.
But they're all of the calibre that could be lead coaches in any other county. Like,
right.
you have Dar Egan, who's probably going to be an inter-county manager and is unbelievably well regarded on the club scene. You have Eamon O'Shea, an All-Ireland winning coach, as we said, and former manager. You have Darren Gleeson's the goalkeeping coach. Owen Kelly is a Tipperary legend. He's the free-taking coach.
Tommy Dunn.
Tommy Dunn. Cormac McGrath, Shane's brother, who's very well regarded. You have Ray Boyden doing stats. You have Carborough Caroline doing S&C, who was Arsenal ladies coach when they won the FA Cup in Wembley a few years ago. You have a designated sprint coach. Like, it's actually unbelievable, and it does have to be said as well, the finances and the financial backing from Teneo, and you saw Declan Kelly on the pitch after, that does play a huge part in it.
So the scale of that backroom team was potentially not there before Teneo came on board?
I wouldn't have thought, not in comparison to any other years. Like, Lee made the comment earlier on this year that it used to be, he used to say, the backroom team, you could fit it in a van when he was there first time. He said, now you need 2 buses.
Right, okay.
Which is a fair point, and a lot of that does have to do with the financial backing that they have.
Yeah. Manchester United then in action away to Wolves. We'll have former Wolves player Stephen Hunt in on the football show between 9 and 10.
And United looking for a first win away to Wolves since March of 2012. Tonight the sides meeting in the Premier League, with the hosts winning on both occasions. The sides met at Molineux last term. Wolves start with Rui Patricio in goal. Up there, back three, familiar as it is, of Ryan Bennett, Conor Cody and Willie Bolly, with Matt Doherty and Jonathan Otto providing the width. In midfield, it's Leandro Dendoncker and Ruben Neves, with João Moutinho in front of them, and the front two of Raul Jimenez and Diogo Jota. For United, David De Gea starts in goal. A back four then of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw. Scott McTominay and Paul Pogba are in midfield. Daniel James gets a first competitive start in that trio alongside Jesse Lingard and Marcus Rashford, in behind Anthony Martial, and kick-off is at 8 o'clock.
And Man United fans, the Roy Keane, Gary Neville roadshow is completely sold out. I think it took less than a day for all the tickets to go. It's at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre, September the 4th, in association with Cadbury, so apologies if you didn't get tickets. The only way now to be there in the night is to win the few remaining tickets that we have locked away. So, for your chance to win a pair of those tickets, now sold out, identify our mystery voice, who's part of a long line of people wishing they could join us at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre.
I just find it so exciting, you know what I mean? It would absolutely be brilliant to be involved.
That's him at his most excited.
I just find it so exciting, you know what I mean? It would absolutely be brilliant to be involved.
Text your name and answer 53106, 30 cents. We'll announce the winner later on in the show, and that's our Roy Keane and Gary Neville Premier League Roadshow, with thanks to Cadbury happening 4th of September at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. And if you do know who our mystery voice is, he was in studio on Friday with Brian O'Driscoll and Ger, and that is well worth checking out.
Narrowed it down there, Joe.
I have a bit, but I think most people had a feeling anyway, and it's well worth catching that. Brian O'Driscoll and our mystery voice there, and they were chatting on Friday. A really good chat. You're just two kind of bona fide legends, almost forgetting they're on air at times, and you're kind of chewing the fat. I'm watching the game. Yeah. It's great. It's like you're eavesdropping on them. So that's United Wolves. There's other action tonight.
Yeah, Shamrock Rovers can close the gap on Dundalk to 4 points at the top of the SSE Airtricity Premier Division tonight. The Hoops are at the RSC to take on Waterford. There's an 8 o'clock start there. Rovers striker Daniel Carr, meanwhile, not in the squad, as he's completed his move to Apollon Limassol, the side, funnily enough, to knock Rovers out of the Europa League. Bohemians are looking to reach their first League Cup final in a decade tonight, fresh off their 10-1 win over UCD on Friday night. Keith Longside travelled to Oriel Park to face Dundalk in the semi-finals of the EA Sports Cup. A much changed Bohemian side from flicking through the starting 11s there. Kick-off is at 7:45 and Derry City await the winners.
Jimbo says Richie Hogan's foul wasn't even the most offensive incident involving a Hogan of the last few days, lads. What about Verney's Hulk Hogan outfit? My eyes will never be the same again after seeing that handlebar tash.
Handlebar tash that wouldn't stay on.
No, it wouldn't stay on, unfortunately. No,
There's a picture there for the YouTube, Facebook Live viewers at the moment. It's fair to say you went all in.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you go all in, yeah, in fairness, yeah. There's a wrestling shop over in Stephen's Green. I went over to him an hour beforehand and he basically put all the rig together. They were plain black women's gym pants before I went over to him, and he put some beautiful like lightning lines on them. Yeah, I'd get away with actually. I'd say he could probably sell them if he wanted to.
That won't be the last time you wear that outfit, I reckon.
You've got to get the wear of it, Joe. If you're going to pay money for something, you got to get the wear of it.
Minimum. October is just around the corner, Michael.
The best what I should have done was come in for the second half and show in the yellow and red, like obviously.
Would have been ideal. Feather bow and everything.
The sending off is the biggest whinge ever. Kilkenny lost 18 of their remaining 22 puckouts. Kilkenny trotting around the pitch, route one all the way, no change to a failing strategy, says Michael in Cork.
The funny thing about sending off, when you look at the way Tipperary in the semi-final responded to having John McGrath sent off, they were, I think, 5 points down at the time?
Yeah.
And managed to turn that game around.
Yeah.
And whereas Kilkenny, I don't know if it's the timing of the sending off, it was the nature of it or what, but they crumbled.
I know.
And particularly once the Callan goal went in at the start of the second half, I almost forgot about it as a competition.
I found myself watching that second half thinking, how have 14 men ever beaten 15 men ever before? You know, it just seemed like an impossible task the way the game was.
But you sometimes hear people say, there's more space for them to operate in, there's more this and there's more that, when it's going their way. But for some reason, it just completely, the arse fell out of Kilkenny completely in that second half. Yeah. To the point where, unusually for Kilkenny in a final, I almost felt sympathy for them.
Oh, unbelievable.
And they'd hate that.
I found myself rooting for Kilkenny this year. Like against Limerick, I was like the plucky underdogs here. First 20 minutes, I was like, go on, Kilkenny, stick it to them.
That's the way it goes, though. Someone who's won for so long, and even like some people would have got sick of Federer in tennis, and then he starts losing, and he looks like he's never going to win again, and the whole world is behind him again. It was strange. Of all the teams that would utilise an extra man well, like Tipperary's creation of space and the flick passes to the man that's in space, they were a team that were always going to be able to utilise it maybe better than other teams.
Yeah.
It was.
But there's a mentality element of it there as well. To actually say that you are going to use that space and you are going to try and still pull these things off. Whereas Kilkenny sunk into themselves, like Joe mentioned, they went back to the way they were 2-3 years ago. They'd forgotten all the stuff that they built up throughout this year and just reverted to type.
Yeah, and Cody's, I thought Cody's attitude towards the performance was unusual.
And that he was glowy, he was saying it was an amazing performance.
Brilliant, proud of him, praised them, and even said that today as well, how genuine they were as well.
Yeah. Genuineness.
Which
is a real word, by the way. I was saying this yesterday in the paper, I checked this a year ago. I was like, surely he's not saying this word and it's not a real word. But genuineness is very much a real word. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And I doubt anyone ever put it to him.
No, I don't think, I definitely wouldn't be putting it to him today anyway. No. But just was unusual, like, because, they did try unbelievably hard, like, tactically, like, it was just ball going up and ball going back, like, it was naive stuff, really.
It's a strange thing to say, but it did a bit. And like the 2016 final, they got that badly wrong as well at the other end of the pitch.
They were still in that game with a quarter to go. Like they were still thereabouts if they got another goal. That was a practice match, a glorified practice match with 25 minutes to play. After Bubbles got the goal, realistically. Yeah.
Are you shooting off or do you want to stick around and hear some of this audio?
I'll stick around.
Right, do. Okay. Michael Verney will stick with us. We're going to play you some of the reaction from the hotel this morning, some of what Cody was saying yesterday, and Liam Sheedy. Richie, thanks very much. And for the montage.
You're welcome.
She's a beauty. So we'll do that. After 8 o'clock, we'll have Shane Dowling and Dennis Walsh with us as well.
Off the ball on News Talk. Do you ever wonder if there's a simpler way to watch every single live Premier League game on TV? You could have lunch at your slightly annoying father-in-law's just to watch Liverpool playing on BT Sport. You could do some token bicep curls down the gym because they're showing United on Premier Sports. You could drive to your